The first sip felt like a trap dressed up as Christmas. Christmas morning in Asheville, North Carolina, was supposed to smell like pine needles and cinnamon candles, warm, sweet, safe. Instead, the moment my son placed a steaming mug in my hands, my stomach tightened the way it used to right before a student confessed to cheating. "Dad," Eli said, "drink this special tea I made for you." He said it like a line he'd practiced. His smile was too wide, too polished, bright teeth, empty eyes. And the part that didn't fit was simple. Eli had never made me tea in his life. Not once. Not in the 42 years I'd been his father. I'm Warren Carter, retired English teacher. 40 years of grading essays, reading subtext, listening to teenagers swear their lies were truth. You don't stand in front of a classroom for 4 decades without developing an internal alarm system. And that morning, every alarm inside me started screaming. Eli's hands trembled as he offered the mug. Not from excitement, from fear, like he was holding something that could explode. Behind him, his wife Marin sat on the couch, with a blanket pulled to her chin. The heater was on, but she still looked cold. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her face was drained, like she'd spent the night crying quietly somewhere no one could hear. She looked up at me for a split second, and in that glance was something sharp and pleading. Then she looked away fast, like eye contact could break her. "Morning, Dad," Eli said again. Too cheerful, too loud. I took the mug anyway. Refusing would have been a challenge, and I wasn't ready to start a fight before I understood what kind of war I'd walked into. The tea smelled strong, not chamomile, not comforting. There was a bitter edge under the sweetness, something sharp hiding beneath honey. Eli didn't watch my face. He watched my throat. He watched me like he was waiting for a clock to start. And that's when I knew this wasn't a gift. It was a test. Silence is also a confession. I'd driven from my small place near Biltmore Village to Eli's home in West Asheville, passing sleepy houses lit with wreaths and warm porch bulbs. Christmas lights blinked like they were trying to cheer up a world that didn't deserve it. The roads were damp from light overnight rain. The sky was the color of dishwater. It had been 3 years since my wife, Claire, died, and holidays still felt like walking through a house after a fire, everything familiar, everything ruined. Eli had insisted I come. "Dad, don't be alone today," he'd said. It sounded kind. It sounded right. But the second I stepped into his living room, the air felt tight, like the house didn't want witnesses. Marin greeted me softly. "Hi, Warren." Not warm, not rude, just flat. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded too quickly, eyes locked on a loose thread in her sleeve. "Just tired." Eli hovered behind me like a stagehand, moving props. He took my coat too fast, guided me toward the couch like he needed me in a specific spot. It reminded me of how kids steer each other into place before a prank. Then he announced the tea. Special. That word again. My eyes slid to the coffee table. Marin already had a mug, plain ceramic, the kind you buy in sets. The liquid inside was the same amber shade as mine. 2 mugs. 2 identical cups. 2 identical liquids? "Since when do you make tea?" I asked. "Since today," he said, and his smile snapped onto his face like a mask. I wanted to do something meaningful. Meaningful. Another word that didn't fit. Marin didn't drink. She held her mug like it was a hand warmer, staring into it like she expected it to move. Eli's eyes flicked between us. His jaw stayed clenched. I'd told students for years, if something feels wrong, it's because the writer wants it to feel wrong. And that morning, my son was writing something I didn't want to read. The most dangerous lies come wrapped in affection. Eli sat across from me, legs bouncing, trying to look casual. The TV played a holiday music channel on low-volume soft carols that sounded desperate. His body didn't match the soundtrack. He kept checking his watch like time owed him money. "Dad," he said, "I use that herbal blend you like, the one that helps you sleep." "That's funny," I said lightly. "I didn't know you even knew what it was called." He blinked. Marin told me." Marin's head snapped up. Her eyes widened for half a second, not surprise. Fear. Then she looked away again, lips pressed tight. So he was using her as cover. I lifted my mug and pretended to inhale the steam. My eyes stayed on him. Eli's knuckles whitened around his own mug, and his mug was untouched. He wasn't drinking. A memory hit me. Eli at 12, hiding a broken lamp behind his back, smiling too hard while insisting the dog did it. Same smile, same emptiness behind the brightness. My mind went searching for logic. If there were two mugs and he wanted me to drink mine, then my mug was the one that mattered. If he was watching the clock, whatever was in that tea was timed. If Marin was silent, she was either complicit or scared. Eli stood abruptly. "Let me grab the cinnamon rolls." He turned his back. I had maybe 3 seconds. 3 heartbeats. Marin's mug sat in front of her, identical to mine. Eli's eyes had been locked on my cup, not hers. His hands had been shaking when he handed it to me. So I did the only thing that made sense in a story where nothing made sense. I reached forward, switched the mugs, and slid mine into Marin's spot. When Eli came back, I smiled politely, like everything was normal. "Here," I said, handing Marin the mug that had been meant for me. "Eli made this special for you too." Marin stared at it like it was a snake. Eli froze mid-step. Color drained from his face like someone pulled a plug. "Dad," he said too fast. "Wait, that's what?" I asked softly. His mouth opened, then closed. His eyes locked on the mug in Marin's hands. And in that moment I understood. Whatever was in that tea, it wasn't meant for her. A living room can become a courtroom with one wrong breath. Marin lifted the mug slowly. Her hands shook. She looked at Eli first, like she needed permission. Eli gave her a tiny nod, but his eyes weren't proud. They were terrified. "Marin," I said gently, "you don't have to. If you don't want it, don't drink it." Eli snapped toward me. "She's fine. It's just tea." "Then why are you sweating?" I asked. He wiped his forehead too quickly. "It's warm in here." The heater clicked. The room wasn't warm. It was cold in a way you feel in your bones. Marin took a small sip. Just a cautious taste. Eli's breath hitched. His fingers clamped onto the chair like he might crush it. I didn't move. I didn't accuse. I waited like I did for 40 years when a student lied. Minutes passed. The carols kept playing. A singer crooned about peace on earth like it wasn't the biggest joke in the room. Marin set the mug down. Her face stayed blank, but her eyes kept darting toward the front door, toward Eli, toward me. Eli forced conversation. "So, Dad, how's the new place? You still walking at Bent Creek?" I nodded, answering in short sentences, watching him watch her. He checked his watch again. 10 minutes, then 15. He disappeared into the kitchen and spoke in a low, urgent voice, broken phrases I couldn't make out. But I recognized the tone. Someone pleading with a problem that can't be reasoned with. He came back pale. Marin pressed a hand to her throat. "I feel weird," she whispered. Eli's head whipped around. "Weird how?" I asked. "Like my heart is racing." And the air shifted. The story turned. We were leaving Christmas behind. The scariest countdown is the one only you can hear. Marin's breathing became shallow. She pressed her palm to her chest like she could hold her heartbeat in place. "I'm dizzy," she said. "Like the room is tilting." Eli laughed, one sharp sound that didn't belong to any human emotion. "You probably didn't eat enough," he said. "I watched her eat," I replied. "She had breakfast." Eli's eyes flicked to mine, and the mask slipped for a second. Something ugly showed through. Something desperate. Marin's hands started to tremble. Not subtle, full body shaking like shock. She tried to stand. Her knees buckled. "Eli," she gasped. My heart. He dropped beside her, hands hovering like he didn't know where to touch, like he was afraid contact would leave fingerprints. I leaned forward and looked at Marin's pupils dilated. Sweat dampened her hairline. "This isn't anxiety," I said quietly. "This is physical," Eli snapped. "She's fine. Too loud." Then he forced his voice down. "Babe, breathe." 20 minutes. Marin's lips lost color. "Call 911, I said, firm. Eli hesitated. Not panic. Calculation. "Now," I repeated. He fumbled his phone. "My wife, she's having some kind of attack," he stammered, giving the address. My eyes drifted to the mug on the table. The tea still looked harmless. Just liquid. Just herbs. Just warmth. But poison doesn't announce itself. Poison hides in familiar things. It depends on trust to get close. Marin's eyes rolled upward. Her body went rigid. "Marin," I said, grabbing her hand. Cold. Clammy. Eli whispered something under his breath, 3 words, soft and broken. "It's happening." And the last part of me that wanted this to be a misunderstanding died quietly. When paramedics arrive, the truth stops being theoretical. Sirens started faint, then grew louder, slicing through the neighborhood's holiday quiet. 2 paramedics rushed in, calm, efficient. The living room became a triage zone. Heart rate 150, one called. Blood pressure 192 over 112, the other answered. They attached monitors. Marin looked small on the couch, blanket slipping, hair stuck to her forehead, eyes half open and unfocused. "What did she take?" the lead paramedic asked. Eli opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at me. "A plea. Don't say it." "It was tea," I said carefully. "She drank tea." "What kind?" the paramedic pressed. Eli jumped in too fast. "Just herbal. Chamomile, honey, nothing weird." The paramedic's gaze sharpened. "Herbal tea doesn't do this." They lifted Marin onto a stretcher. Her hand flailed weakly, searching for something solid. I gripped it. "Stay with me," I told her. "You're going to be okay." Her eyes flickered toward Eli. Tears slid from the corners like her body was crying even if her mind couldn't. Eli stood in the doorway with hands on his head, performing grief like an actor who hadn't learned the script. "Dad," he said, voice cracking. "Are you coming?" "I'll meet you there," I replied. The door shut behind them. The house fell silent except the hum of the heater. I stared at the coffee table. 2 mugs. Mine was empty because I had pretended to sip but never swallowed. Eli's mug was untouched. Marin's mug, the one meant for me, was still half full. I went to the kitchen, found a zip bag, wrapped the mug in paper towels like evidence. My hands were steady. My mind was ice. Standing alone in my son's living room holding that bag, I admitted the truth with absolute clarity. Eli hadn't tried to make me sick. He'd tried to kill me. If you've ever felt your instincts warning you before your brain caught up, hit like and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there. I read the comments, and I want to know how far this story reaches. Because we weren't even at the worst part yet. Hospitals make lies sound ridiculous. The ER at Mission Hospital smelled like antiseptic and quiet panic. Christmas decorations hung near the nurse's station, paper snowflakes, a plastic tree like someone tried to decorate a storm. Eli sat hunched in the waiting area, staring at his phone. He didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't ask why I didn't ride in the ambulance. We waited in silence. An hour. 2. Finally, a doctor approached, tired eyes, steady voice. "Marin Carter?" Eli stood too fast. "That's my wife." "I'm Dr. Patel," he said, guiding us into a small room. "She's stable now, but her labs showed toxic levels of stimulants. Her heart rate and blood pressure were dangerously high." Eli's face tightened. "Stimulants? She doesn't do drugs." Dr. Patel didn't soften. "These levels don't happen by accident. This looks like deliberate poisoning." Eli's voice jumped. "That's insane. She just had tea." "Tea doesn't do this," Dr. Patel said flatly, "unless something was added." I placed the zip bag on the counter. "I switched cups," I said. "This is the mug my son handed me." Silence slammed into the room. Eli's eyes snapped to me. "Dad, why would you—" "Because you were shaking," I said. "Because you were watching me like you were waiting for something." Dr. Patel took the bag like it weighed 100 pounds. "I'm calling security." "And the police." Eli's voice rose too quickly. "This is a misunderstanding. My dad, he's confused." I cut him off with the calmest words I've ever said. 30 minutes after Marin drank from that mug, she almost died. Eli's smile vanished. What remained was raw terror. Detectives don't need drama. They need patterns. Detective Renee Vargas arrived soon after mid-40s. Sharp eyes, clipboard held like a weapon. She spoke to Dr. Patel, then separated Eli and me. Marin was interviewed in her room. Through the cracked door I heard her weak voice. "I don't understand," she said. Eli made the tea. He said it was for Warren, to be nice. Then Eli was taken into a small office. His voice rose, defensive, angry. "This is ridiculous. My dad's paranoid. He hates me." Vargas finally sat across from me, hands folded. "Mr. Carter," she said, "walk me through the morning. Every detail." I told her everything. The forced cheer, the identical mugs, the trembling hands, the clock watching. Marin's fear. "Why did you switch the cups?" she asked. "I taught English for 40 years, I said. "I know performance when I see it." Eli was performing. Vargas studied my face. Then she nodded once. "We'll test the mug," she said. "We'll pull her toxicology. If this is deliberate, it's a criminal case. I waited for reassurance. She didn't give it. Instead, she leaned in slightly and lowered her voice. Mr. Carter, if what I suspect is true, your son didn't try to make you sick. Her eyes held mine. He tried to kill you. The lab results didn't just confirm my fear. They sharpened it. 2 days later, Vargas called me to the precinct. The building smelled like old coffee and worn carpet. A crooked wreath hung near the front desk, like even it had given up. Vargas spread paperwork across a table. The mug contained extremely high levels of caffeine, she said, plus ephedrine. In tea? I asked. Not naturally, she replied. Someone added it. Enough to push a healthy adult into crisis. Enough to kill a man your age. My mouth went dry. How much? I asked. About 4 grams of caffeine, she said, and about 200 milligrams of ephedrine. Then she slid another page toward me. A life insurance policy. $500,000. Beneficiary. Eli Carter. I never signed this, I whispered. We know, Vargas said. Signature analysis shows it's forged. She turned her laptop toward me. We obtained warrants for your son's communications, she said. There's correspondence with Dylan Rook, known for document forgery. Emails appeared on the screen. Need clean signature replication. High accuracy. Policy needs to look natural. Dad has heart issues. Make it believable. I don't have heart problems, I said, voice thin. Your son told the forger you did, Vargas replied. I stared at the words until they blurred. Eli hadn't just planned my death. He'd planned the story around it. Make it believable. Make it expected. The motive was hiding in plain sight. Vargas didn't stop at the policy. She kept digging. A few days later, she called again. Mr. Carter, we found your son's financial records. Back at the precinct, she laid out printouts like a teacher laying down graded exams. Online gambling, she said. Sports betting. Poker sites. My stomach tightened. He lost about $190,000 in less than a year, she continued. Credit cards. Personal loans. Drained joint accounts with Marin. Then she slid an email across the table. Burner address. You have 2 weeks to pay $150,000. If not, we take collateral. Your wife is pretty. Your father is old. Don't make us choose for you. Loan sharks, Vargas said. The kind who don't negotiate. So that was it. The policy. The timing. The special tea. $500,000 would have cleared his debt and left him breathing. He wasn't only greedy. He was cornered. But being cornered doesn't force you to poison your father. It only reveals what you're willing to do when you're afraid. Vargas leaned back. We have enough for an arrest warrant. Tomorrow morning. I nodded, staring at the email. Because the next part was when I watched my own son get taken away in handcuffs. Dawn arrests have a sound that ends a life. It was still dark when I followed police to Eli's house. I don't know why I went. Maybe I needed to see it to believe it. Detective Vargas knocked hard. Eli opened the door in a bathrobe. Messy hair. Pale face. He looked like a man who hadn't slept like a man who knew. Eli Carter, Vargas said, you are under arrest for attempted murder, insurance fraud, and document forgery. 2 officers stepped forward. Eli's eyes snapped past them and landed on me. For a second, he looked like my son again, small, scared, desperate. Dad, he whispered. Tell them this is a mistake. The cuffs clicked. Marin appeared on the stairs barefoot, gripping the railing. What's happening? She asked, voice cracking. Vargas said it plainly. Your husband tried to poison his father for insurance money. Marin's knees buckled. No, Eli wouldn't. Eli twisted like a trapped animal. Dad, please. I didn't mean I could have asked why. I could have begged for the truth. Instead, my voice came out calm, almost clinical. I don't know you, I said. Not anymore. Eli broke. He sobbed as they led him to the patrol car, calling my name like it could rewind time. Marin stood frozen in the doorway, watching the man she married disappear into flashing lights. I drove home alone under a pink sunrise that looked beautiful and indifferent, and survival didn't feel like winning. It felt like being left behind. After betrayal, silence becomes its own kind of noise. That afternoon, my house felt too large. Every photograph felt like a witness. Eli at 5 with a missing tooth. Eli at 16 in a football jersey. Eli at his wedding, smiling like a man capable of love. My phone buzzed. Marin. Warren, she said, voice shaking. I don't know what to do. You don't have to know today, I told her. I keep thinking, she whispered. What if you hadn't switched the cups? The image hit me like a punch. I did, I said. I switched them. You're alive. I'm alive. She cried, real crying, the kind that doesn't care who hears. This wasn't your fault, I said, and I meant it. That night, rain tapped the windows, and I realized pride couldn't carry this. A knock came around 7. Tessa Moore stood at my door, my former student, now a social worker holding soup and bread like she'd done this for other broken people. I saw the news, she said gently. I came as soon as I could. The second she stepped inside, my composure shattered. I cried the way I hadn't cried since I buried Claire. And Tessa held me like she understood the story I'd been forced into. Courtrooms don't just judge crimes. They judge relationships. 3 months later, I walked into the Buncombe County Courthouse to testify against my own son. Reporters hovered. People whispered my name like I was a character, not a man. Eli sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit. Hollow cheeks, eyes too big for his face. When he saw me, his lips moved. Dad. I looked away. Judge Helen Sutter entered, face unreadable. The prosecutor, Dana Whitfield, stood. This is a case about greed, addiction, and betrayal, she said. A son who attempted to murder his father for money. The defense tried to soften it. This is desperation, he said. A man under threats making catastrophic mistakes. Then they called my name. My legs felt heavy as I took the stand. The oath tasted like iron. Dana asked me to describe Christmas morning. I told them about the special tea, the trembling hands, the empty smile, the watch checking. What did you do? She asked. I switched the cups, I said. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Why? Because I've spent my whole life reading people, I said, and my son was lying with his entire body. Eli cried openly at the defense table. I kept talking anyway. Marin collapsing. The ambulance. The mug in the zip bag. The doctor saying deliberate poisoning. Some memories don't fade. They sharpen. The evidence wasn't emotional. It was mathematical. Dr. Patel testified about Marin's vitals and toxicology. Detective Vargas laid out the lab report, the forged policy, the email trail, the warrants used to obtain records. Then the emails went on a screen. Dates, details, Christmas morning. He always comes alone. Window, 9 to 10 a. Marin testified too, voice trembling but steady. I trusted him, she said. I loved him, and he almost killed me by mistake. The defense leaned on loan sharks, on fear, on desperation. But desperation doesn't forge signatures. Desperation doesn't buy stimulants and time a gift. Desperation doesn't smile while handing your father a deadly cup. Eli didn't testify, and I understood why. If he spoke, he'd either lie or tell the truth and destroy what little sympathy remained. The verdict felt like a funeral without a coffin. The jury deliberated for hours. I stared at a vending machine like it held answers. Tessa sat beside me, steady, a quiet anchor. When we were called back, Eli stood, eyes darting toward me with desperate hope. The foreperson rose. On the charge of attempted murder. Guilty. My heart didn't leap. It just sank. On the charge of insurance fraud. Guilty. On the charge of document forgery. Guilty. Eli collapsed into his chair, sobbing. I felt no victory, only emptiness. At sentencing, Judge Sutter said, "You betrayed the most sacred bond," and she gave him 15 years with parole eligibility after 10. Eli turned toward me. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't forgive him. I didn't curse him. I nodded once acknowledgement, not absolution. Then the sound of chains followed him out like punctuation at the end of a chapter I never wanted to write. If you're still here with me, subscribe because the verdict isn't the end of stories like this. And tell me in the comments, was 15 years fair, or should it have been more? I want your honest take. Healing begins when you stop pretending you're fine. The months after the trial were the hardest of my life. Nights were worse than days. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, hearing Eli's voice, "Dad, drink this special tea," like a haunting refrain. Tessa kept showing up. Soup, bread, quiet company. One afternoon, she looked at me and said, "Warren, you're not okay." "I'm fine." I lied automatically. "No," she said gently. "You're surviving." "That's not the same." So I called Dr. Naomi Green, a therapist specializing in trauma and elder abuse. The first session, I barely spoke. "You don't have to talk until you're ready," she said. But hear this. What happened wasn't your fault. How is it not my fault? I whispered. I raised him. You raised a child, she replied calmly. He made choices as an adult. Simple sentence. It took months to believe it. I rebuilt routines slowly. Morning walks, real meals, one phone call to an old friend, one coffee shop visit even though my stomach twisted at the smell. The irony wasn't lost on me. Eli tried to kill me with tea, and daily rituals were what brought me back to life. The people who save you aren't always blood. In late spring, Marin called. Warren, she said softly, can I visit? She'd moved to Raleigh to stay with her sister. When she stepped into my living room, she looked thinner, yes, but clearer too, like someone who finally stepped out of fog. We sat with plain hot water in mugs. No herbs, no ghosts. I filed for divorce, she said. I can't be married to someone who tried to murder his father. I understand, I told her. Her eyes filled. I keep replaying that morning. I keep thinking you saved me. I inhaled slowly. I saved myself, I said. And you got hurt. You didn't hurt me, she said quickly. Eli did. We sat in silence. I don't know how to trust again, she whispered. Neither do I admitted. Before she left, she hugged me, not like family, but like survivors holding on to the idea life could be rebuilt. After that, she sent a card each month, thinking of you. Hope you're eating. You're not alone. And I learned something bitter and beautiful at the same time. Blood can betray you, but love can show up anyway. Telling the truth out loud makes it lighter. One day, Dr. Green asked, have you considered using your story to help others? I almost laughed. A warning label on tea? She smiled softly. Elder abuse? Financial exploitation? People don't talk about it because it's humiliating. But your story could save someone. Eventually, I spoke at a community center. 50 seniors sat in folding chairs, eyes tired, bodies worn, attention sharp. My name is Warren Carter, I said, voice cracking, and my son tried to kill me. The room went silent. I told them about the cup, the switch, the ambulance, the forged policy. Afterward, people came up quietly. One woman, my daughter's been taking money from my account. One man, my grandson pressures me to sign papers I don't understand. They didn't need pity. They needed resources. So I gave numbers, legal aid, advocacy, counseling. On the drive home, I felt lighter. Not because the pain was gone, because it had purpose. Later, I wrote an essay. The cup I didn't drink. It spread. Messages came in from strangers who said it pushed them to call their bank, to check their accounts, to stop ignoring their gut. For the first time in a long time, I felt something close to hope. Forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a road with no map. 2 years passed. Healing came in uneven waves, some mornings normal, some mornings heavy. Then an envelope arrived from state prison, Eli's handwriting. It wasn't the first letter. It was the third. I opened it on a quiet Tuesday. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm in therapy. I'm in Gamblers Anonymous. I'm learning how addiction turned me into someone I don't recognize. I think about what I did every day. Maybe one day you'll write back. Maybe you won't. I just need you to know I'm sorry. I read it twice, then folded it and put it away. I wasn't ready to forgive. But I also wasn't burning with rage anymore. Rage takes energy. Healing replaces it with something quieter, acceptance, maybe, or fatigue, or both. Dr. Green once told me, forgiveness doesn't make it okay. It just means it stops controlling your entire life. I didn't know if I'd ever write back. Maybe one day. Maybe never. But I did know this. I wasn't living in that Christmas morning anymore. I was living in today. The second Christmas didn't erase the first. It proved I could survive it. 2 years after the poisoning, I woke up before sunrise on Christmas morning. The house was quiet. No nightmares. No sudden panic. Just calm. I walked into my kitchen, took down a box of plain black tea, boiled water, and watched steam rise like a gentle ghost. For a moment, my hand hesitated over the mug. Then I smiled at myself. Not today, I whispered. I brewed it. I sat at the table. I drank it. On the counter sat another envelope from prison. I didn't open it, not out of anger, because today wasn't about him. At 9, the doorbell rang. Tessa stood there holding a tiny potted Christmas tree. Behind her was Marin with a tin of ginger cookies. We figured you shouldn't be alone, Tessa said. Marin glanced at the mug in my hand. Are you sure T is okay? I'm sure, I said. We sat around my table, my former student, my former daughter-in-law, my chosen family. We decorated the little tree with cheap ornaments. We laughed. We talked about work and new beginnings and the strange ways life rearranges itself after tragedy. No one mentioned Eli. Not because we were avoiding him, because today belonged to the people who showed up. After they left, I sat alone again, watching the tiny lights blink. I'm still here, Claire, I whispered to the empty room. Broken, but here. And if you're listening, especially if you have an aging parent, or you are one, please hear me. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. Love should never require blindness. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my place? Would you ever forgive a child who tried to kill you? And where are you listening from, city and time? Drop it in the comments. I read them. Because surviving isn't the end. It's the beginning of learning how to live again. The end.